What is going on, YouTube? I am Germ here. So far, since this team has been eliminated, obviously talking about TSM, there's been a lot of talk about them, and there's going to continue to be a lot of talk about them. I think they are going to be one of the most talked about teams throughout this offseason because they're so popular, they're so polarizing, and honestly, they haven't been good in quite some time. Again, I'm going to keep saying this in videos. The last 4 years, no Worlds, 0-6 at Worlds, and no Worlds. So this is a very, very big offseason for them. Obviously, the last couple of years, they've had the excuse of not having money. This year, they had the excuse of not having Bjergsen, not having Double Lift, and now all of that is out the window. They're a year removed from those big retirements. They, are not being caught off guard by those retirements, and they now have this FTX money. Now, obviously, not all of the FTX money is going to go right into player acquisition. Some of this money is going into building the brand globally. Some of it is going into investors, sponsors, that type of stuff, making some people money because it is a business at the end of the day. But some of this money is surely going to go into the League of Legends team. And people have been talking about a lot of different things. People have been talking about top lane, AD carry, what's going to happen if Spica leaves. But in this video today, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sword Art and if TSM is maybe going to move on from him, if they should move on from him, if they can move on from him. And I think it should make for an interesting video. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content, and consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm. If you want to support me a little bit more, that'd be awesome. I would appreciate it a ton. With that being said, let's get right into this. So again, the Bjergsen retirement kind of caught people off guard. It caught the fans for sure way off guard. But I guess the team behind the scenes probably knew a little bit more. The Bjergsen retirement was a lot less shocking to the team because Bjergsen almost retired in between the spring and summer split. So they had a little bit of time to prepare. And honestly, going out and getting Power of Evil wasn't so bad. I mean, at the time, Power of Evil was seen as one of the better mid laners in the West. We expect him to get his green card this offseason, so thinking that he was just only going to be an import for 1 year, that's honestly not too bad. He's a guy who I don't think he's ever won a domestic title, but he's actually had pretty good international performances. Historically, he had good performances against TSM. But unfortunately for him in TSM, the meta has really gone away from his playstyle. He really only has one good playstyle where he plays, scaling control mages, and he is so good at that. Like, honestly, I think he's world class on scaling control mages, like Orianna, Azir, Victor. He is really good at these champions. But unfortunately, again, the meta is more towards a lot of early game skirmishing, a lot of mid-jungle duos going around the map, helping out other lanes. Games are ending earlier. You don't necessarily get to scale to 3 to 4 items on a mid laner. And, Scuttle Crab is so valuable, and diving bot, and getting your top laner ahead, and working with your jungler, and making plays with your jungler, which, that's just not really Power of Evil's game. And again, unfortunately for TSM, this is when they got him. Because if they would have got Power of Evil in a different season, in a different meta, whatever, he's been really strong. And he's had good international performances. Historically, he's made it to Worlds. He's made it out of groups. He almost beat SKT and Faker with a Misfits team that no one was kind of even considering. And he has been very good. And just last year, he was at Worlds with FlyQuest. But again, he comes to TSM. Things do not go that good. But the big thing here is that he is about, we think, it is rumored that he's about to become a resident. And being a resident mid laner is so valuable in North America. It allows you to import other positions, and it allows you to have a European, an import, in quotes, at North America's weakest position, which is mid lane. There is not a ton of mid lane talent out there. But even though Power of Evil is about to become a resident, there still is the possibility of TSM moving on from him because they have enough residents in other positions. They have the MVP of the league, who is a resident, which really puts TSM in a good spot. Huni is a resident in the top lane. And if they are to move on from Power of Evil, it's really only in 2 scenarios. One of these scenarios is that Sven becomes a resident and comes to TSM, which I think is very unlikely. If Sven becomes a resident, I can't really see Cloud9 moving on from him. Now, Cloud9 has already benched him once. So it is possible theoretically, but I think they only bench him because he was an import and they were maybe trying to open up another import slot. I can't really see Cloud9 moving on from resident Sven. The other option, which I think is way more likely, way more possible, I don't know how likely, it may be still unlikely, but way more likely than TSM Sven, is TSM Tactical. And other than that, I mean, there are a couple of options. Maybe they can try and buy out King. Maybe they can try and buy out like Luger. But other than that, I don't really see a ton of great North American options, besides Lost. Lost was really good in Academy. He was maybe the best Academy 80 carry. He's right there with King, but he wasn't good enough. He's not good enough for TSM at this point. I can't imagine they run him back. So if they were going to go with an import mid laner, it would leave them with Sword Art and one other import slot. And here are some of their options, which I actually wanted to take a look at. We have the spreadsheet, that we're going to keep going back to of all the potential free agents out there. When you look at the, North American free agents, you have Poe Belter, you have, no one except for Jizuke. And Jizuke was first pro all team. Maybe TSM could go with him. I would be very, very shocked if we see TSM Jizuke. I just don't think that's going to happen. As far as European mid laners, Magic Felix, Nuke Duck, not really anybody too exciting. As far as the big names, still nobody, still no mid laners. The one option is maybe if Mad Lions breaks up, because Karzi and Kaiser, as you can see here, are both free agents. There is a world possibly where, everyone decides to leave Mad Lions. Maybe TSM gets Humanoid, but that is an absolute long shot. There is such a small percentage chance of that. But the guys we are kind of looking at, which I think are a little bit more possible, we have Cryan. Maybe. We have Knight is a free agent. Maybe. These are all the guys with expiring contracts. Showmaker, not happening. Chovy, I'm going to say that Chovy is also not happening. I think it is very, very unlikely. But a name that actually is possible and I think would be a little bit interesting is Maple. This is a guy who's been around for so long, but I believe I read that he's only 23 years old. Maybe he's 24 years old. I think he's around the same age as Power of Evil. That could be interesting. Obviously, he has a history with Sword Art. He has synergy with Sword Art. If he wants to come to North America, if he wants to come to TSM, if he wants to get paid, if he wants some FTX money, I think it could be a real possibility. And I really think we could see a TSM team that looks like this. Huni, Spica, Maple, Tactical, and Sword Art. I think you could see TSM running that out in 2022, and I think this would be an interesting team. I don't know if this would necessarily be a bad team. I think this would be better than the current iteration of TSM that we're seeing right now. I think Tactical is a huge upgrade over Lost, and PoE in the right meta is great, but you can't be so meta reliant. You can't be so one-dimensional. I'm a big fan of Power of Evil. I love his attitude. I love his mindset. I think he's good. When he's good, he's absolute class. But man, when he's, I don't even want to say when he's bad, but he's just irrelevant in these games. He's useless in so many games and so many metas on so many champions. And it is very, very exploitable in the right metas. Now, if you're in a meta that's just filled with tons of control mages, Power of Evil can play them all. He really has a great champion pool in that regard, but, it's not the meta we've seen the last couple of years, and it's really hurt Power of Evil in a big way. And yes, again, him becoming a resident is a huge deal. Him being the mid lane of the future for TSM is a huge deal. But is it possible they move on from him? Yes. Is it likely? I don't know. I still think it's unlikely. I still think Power of Evil will be the TSM mid laner next season, but it's an interesting thought experiment. It's something to think about. There is a world where TSM moves on from him. This is a very, very viable roster we have right here. This is possible. So it's something to consider headed into the offseason. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. Do you think TSM should keep Power of Evil, or do you think they should move on from him? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.